It's a good bill and welcome it being introduced.
Speaker.
I call Matt Doocey.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise on behalf of the National Party in support of the Earthquake Commission Amendment Bill in its first reading. Can I first acknowledge the sponsoring Minister, the Honourable Megan Woods, the Earthquake Commission Minister, for her support of Canterbury, but also when I think of former ministers, the Honourable Jerry Brownlee and the Honourable Nicky Wagner, and in fact all Canterbury MPs and Parliament that has stood behind Greater Christchurch and Canterbury over the years. In fact, the former National Government, it was one of the top 4 priorities, and I think there's always been a focus on Canterbury, and I thank this new government for continuing that focus on rebuilding what will be one of the best new small cities in the world, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what is going to be the debating point, I think, for this bill? We have support across the House. The first reading is about intent. We've heard from all the speakers so far that they agree with the intent of this bill. It will go to Select Committee. But in the words of the Honourable Megan Woods, she called it a limited set of changes, because out of the discussion document, the 9 recommendations, this government's only picked up 4. And I think why that is significant is because in opposition they talked up a big game. They talked up a big game about earthquake recovery, and now they've got a chance to lead, and they pick up 4 out of 9. Now, the Honourable Chris Farfoy will yell out across the House around how quick things, but if he was based in the ground in Canterbury, he would know by talking to Cantabrians the issues around earthquake recovery is not about speed. It's never been about speed. It's been about quality. And the reason why Cantabrians backed National in subsequent elections after the earthquakes, and that is on record, is because this government stood up and made decisions. Not all of them were popular, but Cantabrians appreciated decisiveness. And what have we got here? The Minister saying, oh, a limited set of changes, 4 out of 9. And why? Because they're holding off for another inquiry. Instead of putting the 9 through Select Committee, where that process could occur, they want another inquiry. Just like the mental health inquiry, where the timelines were released this week, and out of an inquiry that will take 1 year, the public's got 8 weeks to have their oral submission. 8 weeks out of a year-long inquiry process. Mr. Speaker, they're winding it all back. They spoke up a big game in opposition, and here they are winding it back. And in fairness to the new government backbencher, Duncan Webb, he acknowledges that. He said about the time of notification, I'm not sure the minister's got it right. And I noticed the senior whip writing down a message to note, backbencher tutorial coming up next sitting week. But it's all right. It'll dawn on the backbench government MPs, their role, the heart of winter, their role of falling in line with the ministers. Okay. But when we come back to this bill, Madam Speaker, what we want to see is the recommendations go through. What we want to see is a government committing to Canterbury, and ultimately what we want to see is the best new city in the world being rebuilt. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I call Brett Hudson. Is this a split call?
It is indeed, I understand.
Thank you very much for advising the Chair.
Sorry, I also think, sorry about